Hey everybody, it's manilamerk and I'll be doing The Last of Us 2 Multiplayer Wishlist. I want to keep it simple. I'll be talking about what I think about the whole clan system, then I'll move on to game modes that I want to see, weapons we need to have, and a better customization system. So let's get started now. The Last of Us multiplayer is pretty good so far. In fact, it is one of my personal favorite multiplayers in general. It's a third-person shooter and it's violent, brutal, and suspenseful. It's generally 4 on 4 and there are tons of ways to go about your matches. You can go loud, you can go quiet, or you can wait for people to step into your traps. Only 3 game modes so far, which is good for now because it keeps each game mode busy. But what I want to talk about right now is the whole clan system. So you're introduced to the question, do you want to be a firefly or do you want to be a hunter? So let's say you chose fireflies. It'll be a mini story about what fireflies do, and then it'll say you have 12 weeks before extraction team comes, and so you defend yourself against hunters, and then it'll say these parts are converted into supplies, and this, you can also grab supplies off dead enemies. And for each game you play, you need this amount of supplies in order to sustain your group. If you don't sustain your group with the amount of supplies, then people can get hungry or even sick. So the more supplies you get more people in your group. And so the more people in your group, the harder you have to work to feed the group. During your 12 weeks, after every week a mission will pop up. For this example, it's Dynasty Outbreak. If you fully complete this mission, you get 7+ survivors. You get to choose how about you go to carry out this mission. You can choose downs, executions, revives. You have 3 games to complete it, and if you don't fully complete it, you can still win survivors completing the previous goals. The more supplies you collect, the more stuff you unlock, like hats, masks, emblems, or even weapons. Now all this sounds pretty cool because it's different from your average multiplayer video game. Instead of the whole leveling up and then, oh, I unlock something, this one is I have to take care of my clan, and the larger the clan, the more stuff I get. You have 12 weeks in The Last of Us game time to complete this. So, sounds pretty cool, but over time things get a little bit annoying. And I'll tell you why it gets annoying. It's because when this whole clan system came into play, you know, it was fun, it was cool, it was something to do, something to look forward to for multiplayer. But then over time, people just didn't care about the actual game they were playing anymore. For example, survivors. No one really cared about winning survivors anymore because all they cared about was collecting supplies for their clan. And so the whole idea of the whole one life and it's in a series of rounds, that was taken away out of their minds because they were more concerned about the whole clan system. People would actually throw the match because, you know, they wanted more rounds in to collect supplies. Same thing goes for interrogation. People did not care about opening up the chest right away. Instead, people made sure they knew where the chest was, and what they did was pick off the other team one by one at a time, and just collect supplies for them, all just for the clan, instead of for the win. The win wasn't as important to them. So here's what I think Naughty Dog should do. I think there should be a penalty for losing. Even if you have enough supplies for your clan, there should be a penalty for losing. That way people are focused on the whole beauty of the gameplay of survivors, interrogation, and supply raid, rather than just throwing games away and just throwing their lives away just for the clan. They can focus on the clan, but they should also focus on winning the game too. So even if you have enough supplies to support your group, there should be a penalty, like I said, and that should be losing survivors. That way people are pushed to win the game rather than just collecting supplies and leaving. Other than the whole, I want to focus on my clan rather than the actual game mode, I think the whole clan system is really cool and I think they should keep it. It keeps players wanting to play more, wanting to unlock more, wanting to finish the missions. Okay, now that we got this whole clan system pet peeve that I had out of the way, let's talk about some game modes that we want to see. One of the game modes that I really want to see is a hardcore mode. Meaning, let's take off the radar, let's take off lesson mode, let's take off the markers, and let's take off the toolbox indicators. Let's make it as though this is a real zombie apocalypse. In a real zombie apocalypse, you would probably be looking everywhere. Without any help, you won't be able to see through walls, and you definitely wouldn't have a radar. I personally think we should only put the hardcore mode on survivors, as it's more realistic, as you have one life. And I think supply raid and interrogation should not have hardcore mode, because it's just multiple respawns, it's not as realistic, and we should leave it as is. If they do put a hardcore mode and they do have interrogation and supply raid included in the hardcore mode, well, so be it. I wouldn't mind that either. Moving on, another game mode that I want to see is capture the flag. Now, of course, since this is Naughty Dog, they wouldn't do capture the flag specifically. If they did a capture the flag game, then it would be capture the water supply, capture the food, capture the bloater's leg, something like that, capture the weapons, capture the something zombie apocalypse that someone needs. So let's say they do capture the car parts, and so you guys have car parts in the middle of the map, and then each team has to rush and go get it. First 1 to 3 points wins, and then it shows a cool car scene, cinematic of your team driving the car away. Wouldn't that be cool? Moving on. What many people have been asking Naughty Dog is a co-op zombie survival mode. You team up with a few players and then you just survive waves of zombie hordes, or clicker hordes, or bloaters and stuff we've seen in the campaign. Why don't they do that already? I mean, I'm pretty sure they're gonna do this in The Last of Us 2 because it's been such a high demand. So I'm waiting for that. I hope there's like different waves. It just gets harder and harder. I don't know how exactly they're gonna do it. I don't care as long as they put it in. I honestly think I just prefer zombie waves. Each wave gets harder and harder, and you just have to try your best and survive the oncoming waves. Or we could do what Uncharted 3 did, which they just had like a mini side story and you'd have to just complete it, and there would be multiple obstacles you'd have to go through, and then you'd be rewarded in the end when you complete it. That would be also pretty cool too. Okay, now let's talk about weapons. Now, so far they have a good amount of weapons and they're all really good, and the DLC came out for the weapons and I was satisfied. I liked the variety. I liked how they included crossbow and some more rifles, but I think there are still weapons that would make the game more interesting. That being said, a weapon that could be pretty fun to use would be a throwing axe or throwing knife. Now, I'm not sure how they're gonna include the throwing axe into The Last of Us multiplayer. I'm thinking either 3 things. They're going to leave it in the map and people can just pick it up and throw it at people, or they can collect supplies and craft one, or it could be a special weapon, and what makes it special is that you can just constantly keep picking it up and throwing it at people, so you don't have to use parts for ammo. It's just, you just gotta have good aim and make sure you get that axe back. Another weapon I think that should be in The Last of Us 2 is a weapon in between the bow and the crossbow. It is a compound bow. Rate of fire won't be as fast as a normal bow and won't have a scope or let players bleed out like the crossbow. To balance it all out, the compound bow will be like a normal bow, but more accurate with less arch and will do more damage than the current bow. 1 shot in the head is an instant kill, and 2 shots anywhere else is a down. It won't be a special weapon, it'll be a secondary weapon, and it'll cost 3 loadout points to use. After each arrow is released, it'll take longer to get the next arrow out than the normal bow or a crossbow. The next weapon I think should be in The Last of Us 2 multiplayer is the light machine gun. I use this gun all the time in Call of Duty, so I definitely wouldn't mind using this in The Last of Us. Considering how strong a light machine gun is, it would take about 3 or 4 loadout points to buy. It would be very high in damage and a very widespread. Okay, enough of weapons. What about the customization? The current Last of Us customization is sort of limited. You've got your hat, mask, and helmet only. And you've got your gestures, your executions, your emblems, your emblem location. That's cool. But what about more on the visuals? What about your gloves, your jacket, your vest, your pants? When your match starts, you don't even know if you're a boy or a girl. We should be able to choose if you're a boy or a girl. What about race or skin color? That pretty much just comes off as random as the genders. Another cool feature I would like to see would be scars or face paint on their faces. What about being able to choose what type of backpack you want? Maybe you can choose hiking backpack, mountain backpacks. Maybe you can unlock Ellie's backpack, Joel's backpack, or even Tessa's backpack. I don't know. There's a whole bunch of backpacks. What about a sub pack? One thing that Naughty Dog did in the past that they may do in The Last of Us is be able to choose the heroes of The Last of Us or the villains. Who knows, this is of Hunters versus Fireflies, but that may be an unlockable. What about Marlene? Is she a hero or a villain?
It ain't for you to decide.
Moving on to the last part, Miscellaneous. Something I always wanted to see in The Last of Us 2 multiplayer is your clan size above or below your PSN. It's nice to show off, but it's also good to see how much experience your teammates have and to show how much experience you have. What about holding someone hostage as a last resort? Or maybe just using him as a shield? It would only last about 10 seconds before you think of something else to do. Also, what about a counter perk? If someone has you as hostage, you're able to counter that, only if you have that perk on. Something that I've always felt I wanted was rappels. But if you're on a high building and you want to get down quickly, just use a rappel. It would just spice up the whole strategy of the game, and I think that would be a nice add. Another cool idea is if two players met up together with melee weapons, and they were able to attack, defend, and make it look like some sort of Jedi sequence. I think that would be pretty cool. In story mode, you're able to push dumpsters around, so what if you were able to do that in the multiplayer without messing up the level design? Yes, but what if you were allowed to move the dumpster around? I think that would be pretty cool, and just create some sort of blockage somewhere, and then maybe take cover and just make sure you're protecting your teammates. Without getting too Call of Duty-ish, what if there were a kill streaks? Maybe like if you get 10 kills in a row without dying, a bunch of clickers would spawn and then they would just eat up the opposing team and you'd get points for that. Or maybe attack dogs or runners, or maybe just one giant bloater. I don't know. I think that would be pretty cool and interesting, but it might be a little too much. And yeah. And that pretty much sums up my Last of Us 2 multiplayer wish list. I had a lot of fun making this. I hope I didn't bore you. And please leave comments. Leave comments telling me what you think should be in The Last of Us 2 multiplayer. Don't forget to leave me a like and hit the subscribe button. Thanks for watching.
Should be a straight shot through here.
All right.
It's actually kind of pretty, ain't it?
Yeah.
All right. Now watch your head going through.